Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Kiddushin daf Nun Tes. We're going to begin on Nun Chesamad Beis by the new parak, the new Mishnah. Haimel Chavero. A person says to his friend, some friend this guy is, listen to him. Save a Kaddish li Isha Plainus. There's this woman over there. I really like her. I want to marry her. Could you do me a favor? Could you give her this Kiddushin money so I can be Mekadosh her? The Holach, and he went. We're going to see what the word B'holach means. The Kitshul Atzmo. And he said, you know what? I might as well marry her myself. And she accepts the Kiddushin, Mikudeshes L'Sheni. She's actually going to be married to the second guy. Which, again, not the nicest shliach, not the nicest friend. B'cheina oimer l'isha. So too, if a person says to a woman, Hariyat Mikudeshes Li, Le'achar shloishim yoim. I will be married to you only after 30 days. And she apparently doesn't want to wait. Uva acher, some other guy came. The kitchen and was mekadosh within that time frame. Mikadesh l'sheni. She's married to the second guy. And then the Mishnah adds, Bas Yisrael Kayin, Toichel b'truma. If she's a Bas Yisrael and the second guy is a Kohen, she can already start eating truma because she's married to the second guy without any question. What if the man said a different language? Now this language could possibly mean I want to marry you now. It could also mean I want to marry you after 30 days. So because he said this strange language, so if a second guy came within that time, she's married but not married, this is suffix. And because it's a suffix, in either situation, we're not going to allow her to eat truma anymore. If one guy is a Kohen, one guy is not a Kohen, we don't know who she's married to, so therefore she cannot eat truma. Even if she is already a Bas Kohen, she was always eating truma, but maybe she's married now to the Yisrael. We don't know. Says the Gemara, person says to his friend, Save a Kaddish, go and marry this girl for me. So Tana, Masha Asu Asoi, what he did was accepted. However, we don't love this guy. El Shanogba Midig Ramois. He acted like a tricker. He acted in a deceitful manner. But Tani Didan, Halach Nami de Katani. Why, as I pointed out, the Mishnah used the language B'halach, and he went, it means Halach B'ramois. He went with trickery. So how come in this context it says Haimel Chavero? He said it to his friend, as we continue to Nun Testament Aleph. Umayshna Hasam in Parak Ish Mekadesh Detani Haimel Shluchai. So the very beginning of this second parak on Mem Aleph, it says that you say to your shliach to do it. So you can appoint a shliach. That was the whole beginning of the second parak. How do we know you can have a shliach? But why in one case is he called a shliach? One case is he called a chaver. So hacha ravusa kamashmon, has ravusa kamashmon. Both of them are coming to teach us a chiddush. Hacha ravusa kamashmon. Over here, what's the chiddush? Di'i tana shluchai. Because if instead of it saying chavero, it said shliach, Havamini would think shluchu hu dehavi ramoi. Maybe only shliach could be engaged in trickery. The samcha daite, that he was saimach das on him, savar avadli shlichusi. I thought he was going to do my shlichus. I appointed you as you are a shliach, so you should be my shliach to do it. So therefore, that guy's called a called a ramai, which apparently is not a nice thing to be called. Of a chavero to samcha daite imelul habi ramai. Maybe since he isn't going as a shliach, only as a favor, as he was going, let's say, there anyway. So therefore, in that situation, maybe he would not be called a Ramai. He's also considered to be engaged in Ramois. Okay, so that's the Chiddush in our Mishnah. Also, in the second parak, Hasrmubus Kamash Moditan Hoima Chavero Habamina Chaveru Dechi Kitchu B'Makam Achar in Mikadashas. So it's actually not quoting the Mishnah on Nun Aleph, but rather when you asked him to do shlichus for you and you said she's in such and such a location, and he ends up mekadosh her in a different location, it's not a good Kiddushin. There's several tarach. because you thought, it's my friend, I don't want to be matriach him. So therefore I wasn't really expecting him to go out of his way to be Mekadisher, so therefore it shouldn't be a good Kiddushin. Just the whole Kiddush of Mar Makamulo, maybe I was just kind of like giving him an idea of where she is, but it doesn't mean that Dafka is where that location I want her to get married. No, it could the Kiddushin could be Chal anywhere. That's the point. Ravin Chasida, and we're going to maybe focus on the word that he was Chasida, Ozul Kedushi Le Issa. So he went to be Mekadesh, a girl for his son. But instead, Kitchel and Ashe, he was Mekadesh, the girl himself. Instead of having the girl marry his son, he said, I'm going to marry her myself. But how could he engage in Minag Mois? After all, it's Rabbi Chasida, right? He's a great man. So lo yahavua nihile. What does that mean? Says Rashi, lo ratzu litna l'tzarch beno. They weren't willing to give their daughter to the son. It's not like it's entirely his choice. He went to the family and said, my son would like to marry, I'd like my son to marry your daughter. And they say, what? No, we don't want your son to marry your daughter. I don't think that's a good shidduch. But we'd love for you to marry my daughter. So he didn't do anything wrong. So Mary says, maybe he should have, says Rashi, to let this be known so that it would remove himself from Minag Ramos. So he was concerned that if he went back and told everyone, went to his son and deliberated and spoke to everyone, then the deal would have been off. So therefore he was Mekadisher in that first opportunity. Rabba bar Barchana yoim zuzil Rav. So Rabba Barchana gave some money to Rav. Omar, he said, Zav ninhile l'hayar. I want you to purchase for me this particular land. Ozul zav l'nafshe. But instead, Rav purchased the land for himself. How could it be that Rav engaged in Minag Ramos? The answer is, Ba'aga de'alima havile. L'Rav nahagi b'kovid, l'Rav Barchana lo nahagi b'kovid. We're talking about Ba'aga de'alima, says Rashi, Bika shel Bali Zeroya. So this valley was owned by people who are strong-armed people. V'lo yanichu l'chol adam liknos karka etzlom. They wouldn't allow any person to purchase land next to them. So therefore, Rav was the only one that they would have allowed, and they wouldn't have allowed Rabbi Barchana to buy it anyway. So therefore, he didn't do anything wrong. He boili aduye, so he should again let it become known. So similar case, similar situation. Maybe someone else will purchase it. Rav Gidel was looking at a land. He was thinking, maybe I should buy this. Also, Rabbi Abba Zavna. Rabbi Abba stood up and he bought it for himself before Rav Gidel had a chance. Also, Rav Gidel, who's obviously not too thrilled about this, Kabli Rav Zera, so he encountered Rav Zera. Also, Rav Zera Kabli Rav Yitzchak Navcha. So he went to him. Armalei Chamson, when it comes to someone who's a chamtain, Ashiatz Leinu Regel. So he said, Hamtain, wait. Wait until he comes up for the Shosher Golem anyway, because during that time he'll be Makabel Panei Harav, so everything will be resolved then. Kisolok, when he came up, Ashche found, or Malay said, so if you have a poor person who's trying to scrap a couple bucks to be able to buy some food, and then you just grab the food and purchase it knowing that this guy needed this food, but you bought it before him, what is that person called? I'm like, Nikar Russia. That's a wicked person. My time out of Hachi said, then why'd you buy this? How could you, if someone's mahapich b'charara, you see the person is trying to engage in something, so how could you have done this? Why'd you buy his land? This land, it was for him. Armalei lo havi yadana. I didn't know. I had no idea he was even looking into the situation. So Hashin Nami, Nesvin hile, so in that case, give it to him, right? Sell him the land. Amalei zvuni lumazavninale, the ara kamaisehi, v'lumasamne milsa. So the truth is, I don't want to sell it back to him because it's not a good thing to sell your first property. Your first property, if you buy it and then all of a sudden immediately you sell it, it shows there's something wrong. There's something wrong with you in your decision making. There's something wrong in general. It could be a siman ra that you can't hold on to properties. Maybe it could be an issue when it comes to other loans, other purchases. So I can't sell it back to him. But just so you should know that I'm being sincere, I'll give it to him. I'll give him the land. He can take it. So Rav Gidol Nachasla, he didn't want the land. He goes, I don't need your gifts. I don't want it. I want to buy it. And someone who hates gifts will live. Rabbi Abba loy Nachasla mishum da hapech b'Rav Gidol. Rav Abba felt bad about this whole thing because he didn't want, even though he bought it and he owned his rightful owner, because he felt it was, it looks bad, the whole situation, he didn't use it either. So this land, because no one used it, became the land of the rabbi's land, which basically what that means is, Rashi says, hefker l'talmidim. It was like ownerless for the students. So the students went and played basketball on that land or something. They played soccer. There was no one owned it, even though people did own it. Someone owned it, but because Rabbi Abba felt so bad about the whole thing, he didn't realize that this is what exactly occurred. So therefore, because of that, he said, "No, I'm not going to use it." Okay. So if a person says to a woman, "Marry me," right, and then she ends up marrying someone else within those 30 days, so she's married to the second person. Let's say lo ba'acher, no second guy came, v'kidcha b'toy shloshim yoim, and lo ba'acher, v'kidcha b'toy shloshim mahu. So what is this case? Let's see if Rashi helps me out here a little bit. Okay, so again, no one came, Lo ba'acher, v'kidcha b'toy shloshim, and she was mekadesh within 30 days. Rabbi Shmuel de Mertavayu mukadeshes, v'afal pi shnisachlu hamois. No, so again, what ended up happening was the 30 days went by. So is she married to the first guy? So he says, yeah, even if the money isn't here anymore, even if the money is gone. Says Rashi, am I reading the words wrong? Lo ba'acher, v'kidcha b'toy shloshim. There was no one that came to be Mekadesh within the first 30 days. So what is the din? Is she married to this first guy? So the Rabbi Shmuel, even though the money is gone, it doesn't matter. It's still considered to be a good Kiddushin. Why? My timer, Hani Zuzi Lil Milva Damu. It's not like a loan, Lil Pikadon Damu. Pikadon Lil Damu, it's not like a safekeeping. Pikadon Bershos Tamarika Misachli. When it comes to Bikadon, it's considered in the rishus of the moral of the owner. The Hani Rishus Didaka Misachli. It was her, it was in her domain. So it's not like a Bikadon. He didn't give her a Bikadon. Well, Milva Namilo Damu, Milva Hoitsan Nitna. A Milva, the whole purpose of a loan is for it to be spent, and then you pay back with different money. Hani B'teres Kiddushin Yavinu Nihila. It was given for the sake of Kiddushin. So basically everyone says it's not a machlokas. Everyone says it's a good Kiddushin. She doesn't have to hold on to that money for the 30 days for the Kiddushin to be chal. Lo ba'acher v'kidcha v'chazur ba'mahu. So no guy came within the 30 days, but the first guy retracted. He said, you know what? I don't know what I was thinking. I don't want to be married. I don't want to marry you. Ma, what's it in? So Rabbi Yochanan Mechozeres, he has the ability to retract on his original words, because Asi Dibur Mavatal Dibur, even though he originally said, I want to marry you, but he retracted. Rashi says, it was within the 30 days. After the 30 days, they're married. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't, after 4 years, say, I don't want to be married, didn't want to be married to you. No. The question is, if he retracted within those 30 days. So he says, I'm going to marry you in 30 days. And then at day 15, he says, you know what, forget it. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, says, yeah, he has a right to do it, because one was a dibor and another is a dibor. Words can cancel out words. So we have this machlokas, whether or not words can cancel out other words. So Rabbi Yochanan says, I understand. You're telling me that words cannot be mavatal words. Dibor. Betel, it says, what if betel? What does that mean? Says Rashi, you say to your shliach, say utrom, go and separate trumas and truma from me. V'chazer ubitlu, and then you say, you know what? No, I don't want you to do it. And he didn't do it yet. Oh, b'fanav, oh shel b'fanav, whether you made this retraction in front of the shliach, or even if it wasn't in front of the shliach, says the Gemara, im ad shelo taram bitel and trumas and truma. If ad shelo taram bitel and trumas and truma, if let's say before the truma was done, you're mavatal it, it's not a truma. In other words, like this. It sounds like it's like triple negatives here. It means that if he was mavatal it before this guy did the truma, and he didn't know about it, but then the shliach anyway separated the truma, it's nothing, because his shlichus was canceled, because clearly asi dibur mavatal dibur, which is going to be a kasha and Reish Lakish. So how does Reish Lakish get out of this? By truma. You can't compare that case of truma to giving money to a woman. When you physically handed money to her, even though you said a dibor, but it's not just a dibor canceling a dibor, because you also did an action by giving her that money originally. Velocity dibor mavatal maisa. So here, you're actually having words trying to cancel out an action, and that much we don't do. Esve. So now we have a different question. Okay, fine. Hashalech get leishto. So you send a get to your wife for her to get divorced. V'hagia b'shliach, and the husband encounters the shliach, namely, he sent the shliach out to give this get to his wife, and then a few hours later he happens to chance upon this shliach. O sheshach achar shliach, he sends another shliach to get him. V'armulo get shenasatach batalhu. The get I gave you on it to become batal. Or is it batal? So in that case, it's batal. V'anasinis get liad shliach dachinasinis mois liad ishadami. Me handing the get to the shliach is comparable to me handing the kesef to the woman, so it's considered to be like a maisa, very similar, because the katani harzeh batal. So we see that what's called that dibor is mavatal dibor, even when there is some action attached to the original dibor. So it's a kasha on Reish Lakish again. So hasam nami kol kamadu amati gitl yada, as long as the get hasn't gone to her hands, dibur v'diburhu. It's just words. Asi dibur mavatal dibor. So actually, Reish Lakish does agree that just words will cancel out words. So it's true. Asi dibur v'mavatal dibor. And certainly a strong maisa, apparently everyone's going to hold, words are not going to be able to cancel out a strong maisa. But over here we have this unusual circumstance where it's not really such a maisa, because it's giving her money, but it wasn't really going to be chal for another 30 days anyway. So it's not really a strong maisa. It's a weak maisa, if you will. So this weak action with dibor, can dibor cancel that out? That's the machlokas. To Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. Now Reish Lakish says, oh, you want to keep asking me questions? I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to show you that lo asi dibor mavatal dibor. Kol akelim yodel tumasan, and this is going to eventually be TA 26, which we'll get to. Let me just mark this down. TA 26 is going to be asking based on the following case. Kol kalim yardin lidi tumasan. All kalim will go into the level of tuma, b'machshava, with a thought. What does that mean? All of a sudden becomes tameh when you think about it. So what it means is, let's say, in order for it to be considered to be a keli, in order for it to be makabel tuma, it has to be considered to be gemar malacha, has to be completed. So if you had a machshava that you're done with it, so therefore it's considered to be in the status of potentially becoming tameh. It's either royal makabel tuma, or if let's say it's touching tameh, something tameh, it does become tameh through your machshava. However, you can't just say, you know what, I'm not done with this. You actually have to do a maisa to show that you're not finished with it. So it says Rashi, Shiasa ba maisa l'kalklam shishbareim. So you have to do something like to break it, or you put a hole in it. You have to do something to now show that it is not a complete keli anymore. So in that situation, what do we see? A machshava. The Gemara is going to actually say this beferish. Nun Testament base. So what do we see? Maisa moisa biad maisa umiad machshava. If you do an action to the kli, Rashi says hiskil loshuf. You begin to scrape on the kli. Bitul mehem taras gemar malacha l'shem kli. You've now removed its status of being a complete kli. You're obviously showing with a maisa that you've done something. So only a maisa has the ability to remove your original thought or action. However, machshava, if all you do is have a machshava about this kli, I'm not done with it, that doesn't help. A machshava doesn't remove another machshava. I understand if the original thing was an action, and said, now you have something weaker, which is just a machshava, that it's not a complete kli, I understand that. However, if the original thing was only a machshava, another machshava should remove it. But it doesn't. It doesn't. Why? Because one machshava doesn't remove another machshava. Just like one dibur should not be mevatel another dibur, so that's a kasher Rabbi Yochanan. So it does. We know again, it doesn't. Since a dibur can't remove a dibur, only a ma'isa can remove a machshava. So it's like Reish Lakish. Shani machshava detoma dechimasadami. Actually, a machshava, when it comes to this case of tuma, is different, because a machshava, when it comes to something tameh, actually it takes upon itself the status of actually doing an action. How do we see this? The famous Gemara, which we've had so many times in Shas, in Rav Papa, Rami, he has a stira in Psukim. Ksiv kiyitain v'krinin kiyutan. So on one hand, it says that you do it, that you put the liquid on it, b'maisa, and the other one is it fell on it, which you didn't actually do it. So it's a kiyutan dumadichiyitin, ma yitin denichle av yutan denichle. So when you do a maisa, you wanted that liquid on it. So too, the only time that it'll become tummy if liquid was put on it, not by you, is only if it's nichele, if it's something that you actually wanted. What do we see? Nichele. Nichele is mamachshava. So we see, interestingly enough, that this is how it works, dafka, when we're dealing with the dinim of tuma. That tuma is different. This is actually question 3 as well. But let's just read it as TA 26. So one answer is because we hold that lo asidibur mavata dibur, right? Or machshava de tuma kamaisa, that a machshava is considered to be like a maisa, and therefore your original thought of making it tameh is like a maisa. So a machshava cannot remove a maisa. It doesn't mean that your second machshava is a maisa. No, when it comes to making it tameh or makabel tuma, that is how a machshava is like a maisa, and therefore because of that, that's the reason why this case is different. Okay, that's the reason why it is different. Okay. This is a very easy question, actually. TB, which I might as well just do this while we're asking questions. TB27. It's such a softball question, I probably could easily get it wrong. Ha'omer Elisha sketchly lachar lamed yoim mehem svaras pluton Rav Yochanan Reish Lakish im yochol lachzer ba. What is the svara whether Reish Lakish or Rav Yochanan TB27 whether or not a person is able to retract on this? And the answer of the machshav is just simply whether asidim mevatel dibor. Reish Lakish says Nasius Mois Kiddushin Maisahu asidim mevatel Maisa. Very, very simple question in relation to everything else. Pretty clean, because that's obviously this what we're talking about. There's a whole machlokus, Reish Lakish Rav Yochanan, and therefore that was all they were asking, which is always nice when they do that once in a while. Okay, Rav Zvid Masni Laha, back in the bar. Rav Zvid Masni Laha Shemai Saha. He learned this whole discussion of Rav Yochanan and Reish Lakish based on the following. It says V'chein hi shenasna rishus l'shulcha l'kacha, that she gave permission to the shliach, her shliach, to be mekadosh. V'holcha hi, and she went v'kitchas atzma, and she went and was mekadosh someone else. So im shala kadmu, if she was first, kedusha kedushin. V'im shal shalucha kadmu, if the shliach was first, and kedusha kedushin. So basically, she said, "I want you to marry for me. I want to marry this guy Joe in Cleveland." And so she goes traveling to Cleveland. And meanwhile, she meets some other guy in Lawrence in the Five Towns, and she's Kiddushin there. So the question is, what took place first? Her accepting the Kiddushin in the Five Towns, or the Shliach being Mekadosh her in Cleveland? That's what it says. Now, lo kitchas atzma, let's say she wasn't Mekadosh herself, she just had her friend go to Cleveland to Mekadosh Joe for her, the chazruba, and she retracts from her shliach. She says, "You know what? I don't want to marry this guy." Mahu. So can she retract? So Rabbi Yochanan oimer chazeres. She can. Reish Lakish Rabbi Eno chazeres. Rabbi Yochanan chazeres asedim mevatel dibur, because her original words can be canceled out. Reish Lakish Eno chazeres. She cannot. Lo asedim mevatel dibur. Now, this case is different. It's only words. Words against words. Not like the first version where he said it was like a maisa, because the man gave her money, and it says only after 30 days, but there was an estinus mois. There was some action, there was some maisa. This case is a little bit different because it's mamish dibur and dibur. So apparently the machlokas originally, the first lashon, even the Reish Lakish holds that maybe a dibur can be mavatal a dibur, but according to this, clearly he holds not. So we're going to ask some of the similar questions. Regarding truma, imad shulatarim bitel and trumasa truma. So we see that words can cancel out words. So maraba hachmaiskina and kagan shikana bahabayis atarimis kariyai. Similar to the case we just said, the havile maisa. So what ended up happening is he ended up separating his own truma. So therefore there was a maisa. Which is the same thing we just said. So again, you have the kalim in which just through machshava they can become tameh. Which again, that was the whole question. Is found at the whole answer is actually found in that one line, that even machshava it's kamaisa. However, machshava inu moitzi lo miyad ma'isa lo yad machshava. Now, bishlam miyad ma'isa lo mafka. I understand your second thought cannot cancel out original action because a thought is less than an action. Lo asidibur mavato ma'isa el miyad machshava miyad topic. Same question as we said before. We see that it does not, since a dibur cannot remove a dibur. Apparently, only a maisa can remove a machshava, which therefore is actually, again, it's a question on Reish Lakish. Question Reish Lakish is asking on Rabbi Yochanan, because we see that words cannot cancel out words, which is what Reish Lakish said. No, we're talking about, it's really words can cancel out words, but the original one was a Maisa. Okay. Ukid Rav Papa, as we saw, the steer with Rav Papa Rami, he has to steer him so Ksiv Kitin V'Krin B'Kiyutan. Haketz Kiyutan Dum B'Kiyite. Ma Yitin Denichle Yav Yutan Nami Denichle. So Tum is different because it's totally on one's Machshava. And therefore Machshava can even be like it was a Maisa. Because just like you physically put it on, your Machshava is enough also for it to be a Makabal Toma. So therefore that we compare Machshava to Maisa. So if the original thought still has the level of a Maisa, so a Machshava cannot remove a Maisa. Now here's going to be a larger issue. Rav Yochanan asked a question of Rish Lakish. So over here, there's a little bit of a Maisa over here, right? He sends a get to his wife. And again, he bumps into the shliach before he gives it out. He sends another guy. I don't want this get to work. I don't want to divorce my wife. So, harizeh batal. So in this case, it's a question of Reish Lakish. So this is going to be more of a problem because according to Reish Lakish, he said that the machlokas is even when it comes to one dibur canceling out another dibur. Now over here, what happened? He has the ability to be able to remove his original words, right? He's able to do it. But over here, in this situation, you can't say, oh yeah, it's not real, it's like it was a Maisa. It was actually, the problem is that it's almost like a stronger kasha, because we see that even though you did an action with a dibur, you could still cancel that out. He ended up saying that in the first answer, and the first lashon was, no, he did. It's not really considered a Maisa, the original Maisa. But it's still a dibur. We still see a dibur as mavatal a dibur. That's why it's in fact a tiyofta. So in fact, it's a kasha on Reish Lakish that is refuted, because in fact we see that asi dibur mavatal dibur. And by the way, the hilchos kavas Rav Yochanan. Halacha is like Rav Yochanan. Okay, it makes sense. You have a tiyofta. But here's the chiddush. Mafil b'kamaisa. Even in the first case. So the second case, obviously, when it comes to then one dibur can be mavatal another dibur. But even in the original case, where there was no tiyofta, as we're going to see, as I mentioned, but Gemara is going to say again, still we hold like Rabbi Yochanan, even that in a situation where there's a dibur, and there was some element of a maisa, because he gave the money to her, still he can be mavatal it. Even though you want to say that giving the money is considered like an action that may be different, and feel haki asidim mavatal dibur. So kasha hilchasa hilchasa. So actually, there's a stira. Amrid hilchas Rav Yochanan. So we already said hilchas Rav Yochanan that one word can cancel the other one. But kaimel one the hilchas Rav Nachman. But we also know that the halacha is in accordance to the shita of Rav Nachman. The boilahu, that the question was posed. Mahu sheyachse garishbo. What is the din? Can he go and go back and divorce her? Says Rashi, beget with this get this get is batal. Can he go and divorce her again? In other words, could he use that of course he can divorce her again, but can he use that same get? Can he use the original get that he was mavatal before it was given? Right, according to Rav Nachman, it is, we're going to see Rav Nachman Oimer Chayz Megarishbo. Rav Sheishis Oimer Eno Chayz Megarishbo. The Kaimel and Hilchas Kavos to Rav Nachman. Okay, so let's understand this. Now Rav Nachman, who are focusing on the halachas like him, that he can go and use the same get. Why? So he holds it's good since he never made the get void. Maybe he only made the shlich. Okay, so that's going to be the answer. But the question is, well, chayra, if you can be chayz megarishbo, it must be that he was not mavatal as get. So how can you say that his second words work to be mavatal the get? If it's batal, then you can't use this document again. So nehi debatli matar shlich mataras get will batli. Very interesting. That all he's doing is saying, I don't want you to be my shliach. I'm not saying that this document is void. I still want this document to be valid. I just don't want it to be used at this particular time. But if he wishes to hold on to that same document and re-divorce her with it, then that is acceptable. So Question number 4, this is exactly what's being said over here, that it's being asked, how is it possible that we have the Kasha Hilchasa Hilchasa? So the answer is not that Rab Nachman is saying that it is that you're Mavatal the get, but you just mean Mavatal the Shliach. Okay. Mukadeshes L'Sheni. So he said that she can be married to the second one. Let's read the Mishnah again so we remind ourselves of what's being said here. So it could be referring to a couple different cases. But again, if you said to a guy, please marry, I want to marry this girl, and he ended up marrying her himself, then it's a good Kiddushin. She's married to the second guy. So too, if he said, I want to marry after 30 days, and then she does Kiddushin with someone within those 30 days, she's Mukadeshes L'Sheni, she's married to the second guy without any Sfeikos, and therefore she's able to eat Truma if he's a Kohen, etc. Amra Mukadeshes L'Sheni L'Oilum. You're always married to him for the rest of your life, until death do you part. Shmuel Omer Mukadeshes L'Sheni Ad Lamed Yoim. You're married to the second guy. This is talking not the first case not the ratio, but again the case of marry me after 30 days. So what happens after those 30 days? The first 30 days, okay, you're married to this guy, because this guy, the first guy who said it's only going to work until after 30 days. Well, Achalamed Yoim, after 30 days, Paki Kedushi Sheni, the second Kedushin is removed, the Garmi Kedushi Rishon, and the first Kedushin is Chal, which seems a little bit difficult to understand, that if the original marriage, she's married to the second guy, so after 10 days, they're not married anymore. If you're married, you're married. You can't just automatically have it disappear. And this is the question of Rav Chisda. Also, Rav Chisda v'kakashlei Kedushi Sheni b'may paki. What do you mean? It disappears in thin air? Doesn't make sense. What does that mean? Rav Yosef Mar Areishim Asila. You are reading the Reisha, and therefore v'kashlei. This is why I was a little bit confused. This case of marry me after 30 days. You're right, that would not make any sense. Apparently, in that situation, you're right. She's married to the second guy forever. But this whole machlokus is actually in the Seifa. Rabbi Yehuda Seifa Mastiwa, the loy kashli, then it won't be any difficulty. It's when he said a different thing. He said, he said, marry me now and after 30 days. So is she married to him now or only after 30 days? It's confusing. So in that case, we said it's a suffix Kiddushin. If she was someone is married to her after 15 days, it's a suffix. So in that case, it's always a suffix. The whole question is within those 30 days. But after the 30 days go by, Paki Kedushi Sheni, Vigarmi Kedushi Rishon. So then the first guy is married to her. The second guy we're not sure of, but in the first guy she's definitely married to. Just we don't know if she's going to be married to him now or in 30 days. After those 30 days, that Kiddushin was definitely Chal. The second guy is always a suffix. We don't know his status, and therefore his the suffix is only within those 30 days. Afterwards, she's married to the first guy. So we have to understand this. Well, Rav, according to the sheet of Rav, who says that it's always a doubt, which seems to be more logical, but you have to understand what's going on. He's not sure if he was making a condition or a retraction. In other words, like this. Let's do chazar, it's easier. That he said, marry me today. Then he goes, no, marry me after 30 days. So therefore, in that situation, if it's chazara, so if anyone would marry her within those 30 days, she'd be married to that second guy, because the Kiddushin, because he was chayzer, he really only wanted to be married to her after 30 days. Or it's a condition. Marry me now, however, I'm going to be given this 30-day leeway. But after the 30 days, I want the Kiddushin to have been chal from now, from today. Therefore, if that's the case, then she's going to be married to the first guy. So therefore, because we don't know if it was a condition or a chazar, that's why he says it's always a suffix regarding the situation. However, Shmuel holds it was definitely a condition. And therefore, after the 30 days, since this man didn't retract, So therefore, she's definitely married to the first guy. The second guy, it's a suffix because we don't know until after 30 days what this first guy is going to do. But after the 30 days go by and nothing happens and the guy still wants to marry her, then she's definitely married to the first guy. Now the truth is, this is very comparable. This notion of Mikudesh and Mikudeshas, also regarding the dinim of Gittin, which is going to almost be questionable. Why, in fact, do we then need to mention similar situations? Why can't we just figure out on our own and derive one from the other? Person says, here's your get today and after I die. Now we know there's a din ein get la'achar misa. You cannot give a get to your wife that should be chal only after you die. That doesn't work. Of course, a get is chal if you give it today. So since you said it in this weird way, you don't know what we meant, get v'enu get, divrei chachamim. The chachamim say that it's a suffix because we don't know what you're talking about, which sounds like because the chachamim don't know if it was a condition or it was a chazara. If you're a chayzer, then it's not a get. If it was tanai, then it is a get. I don't know what it is, therefore it's a suffix. Rabbi Omer kizeh get. It actually is a get. The name of Rav halacha Rabbanan Shmuel halacha Rabbi. Sricha. The Omer Rav halacha Rabbanan. If all you would have said the halacha is like Rabbanan, having hasam over there when it comes to a get. Your whole intention is to try to distance yourself from her. So maybe in that situation, that's where Rav will say possibly it's a condition, possibly it's chazara, because we don't really know what your intention is because you're dealing with a situation of separating yourself from your wife. However, where it comes to getting married, where we would probably presume that Tanai Havi, you probably aren't retracting, you're trying to develop a relationship and you therefore want to marry her, and therefore you're probably not retracting, and you're not pushing yourself away. Chazara means pushing away. So, from your original intent of doing something right away. So maybe in this situation, because you want to marry her, maybe he'll agree to the sheet of Shmuel that it's a condition. Maybe the reason why he says this is because there's a concept, as we know, of enget la'achar misa. You couldn't marry someone after 30 days. So maybe he in fact is chayzer. The guy knows if he says after death, he's basically saying it's nothing. So he probably didn't mean that. However, there was probably a condition, but not a chazara. But possibly when it comes to Kiddushin, it is a chazara because, okay, I'm going to marry you in 30 days, big deal, right? So maybe in that situation, the din is different, and that's why it's tzricha, you need to have both. Let's see if question 27. Mehiyoim ul'achar misa. Matzad dahavi get. So the reason why maybe it would be a get is because it is a condition. And umehem hatstadim deloi havi get min hatayra. Why would you think this is not a get? V'i havi chazara. If let's say it was chazara, ein zet get. Ad kan.